I'm going to combine some things which are related to something which is maybe interesting for discussion as well. But I will start with this slide, which is more or less, I can say today, a fact. So construction projects are, in terms of project management, by far the most complex human endeavors we have. So I'm saying in terms of project management, because we have a large number of stakeholders, constant changes and updates, estimation, complex planning, fragmentation, logistics, safety issues. So could you imagine, let's say, just safety issues on one very complex tunnel project and safety manager in an office building? So would you prefer to be a safety manager in one case or another, or on-site condition or weather issue, and then when you have, let's say, when you hear today about the Tesla company or other car manufacturing companies, they have a supply chain management issue. This is just one small part of the issues one project manager in construction projects should deal with. And because of that, today, unfortunately, construction industry is not very efficient. So not because engineers are not professionals, but because it's extremely difficult. So of course, any task could be very simple or complex. Let's say painting wall is a very simple task, but to manage all these tasks, it's almost impossible. So what is I want, Jeff mentioned Finland. So just one example of productivity, current productivity in Finland. And they are maybe one of the best countries in Europe and in the world in terms of efficiency. So they put the sensors in one research, how efficiently workers are actually performing the works on site. And the number is, believe it or not, 15%. Theoretical maximum is around 7%, because there is always some waste, and that's where we are today. And
what do you mean? From 100% of work possible, they do only 15%. The rest is waste.
There is a certain work which is necessary for preparation of let's say, you prepare your ladders for painting or something, or you bring the material from the bottom of the, let's say, ground floor to the second floor. There are certain activities which are not included there, but there are a lot of things where people are on hold. So there are a number of reasons. So more contractors at same time, at same location, long sequence of activities, wrong details. So you have to solve clashes on site. You need an additional elbow, so you need to wait a couple of hours for that. So even in the optimal, we always believe that drawings are not updated, the information sent to the site is not updated. So a lot of things.
I still have to say, Veljko, the 15% for me is it's extremely low, because I did myself a couple of construction, and I know that, for example, if people had to wait, like the example that you gave, that was then all the telephones were red, and so it was really about making sure that everybody could continue to work. So 15% is actually very low.
So you say 15% is what the painter used to use the paintbrush, and all the rest is to prepare it away.
So moving the ladder is not work.
Yeah, it's not here included. I just wanted to clarify this, that you are completely right. So the number maybe will be, if we add these necessary supporting activities, which are around 30%, that would be around 45 or 50%. And I just want to say, I was also surprised by this. It was not how the research was done. They told all workers to use sensors. And they told them that the sensors are primarily for safety issues, not for the research project. And they just managed this. So what they realized first, that if you asked the crew members what they did, they don't even know what they did. They reported that they worked when they didn't, and contrary, they forgot that they worked when they actually did. So they realized that those daily logs completely are different than the actual, because we as the humans, simply, it was not bad intended, and this research was done by just a simple fact. So this was not a theoretical or something like that. This is just what they monitored, and it was presented to me. I was not involved. I was at the conference, and the same like Jeff, you asked me, I would say, come on, it's 50, you make some mistake. And just want to say that there are a lot of things, but I would like to move forward now. Whether there are a lot of bad things about this, but I would like to focus now about to the single source of truth concept and where we are today, and what are the challenges of today's risk management and insurances and contract management and so on. So this is now, I don't know, is it? Yeah, now you all can see there is now a lot of text here, and I just want to say that these are the last two slides I have here with a lot of text. So what are the benefits of BIM and single source of truth? So there is enhanced visualization, improved collaboration, cost saving, better risk management, a lot of other things. And just to say that all those two pages, now this page and the second one, is actually not produced by me, but I asked this chat GPT to tell me what he believes is. So just to say that, but I was surprised that even ChatGPT mentioned a lot of things which we all honestly believe will help us if we have, for example, single source of truth. So first of all, they said that BIM and single source of truth is something which all used almost the same concepts, and this is very beneficial. The second is that he said data consistency and accuracy, the same streamlined decision making. He put reduced errors and rework, enhanced collaboration, simplified data management, improved auditability and traceability. And if I can wrap it up, I will say, if something is coming from in a proper format from single source of truth based on the proper workflow, I will trust that data much more than if it's coming from even a good engineer who just signed that is okay. So just to give you an example about document and data management. So an example is that even 30 years ago, we had a workflow that I, as a main engineer, should sign that all drawings are coordinated. And I'm formally liable. And it's okay. But what is the possibility that I'm wrong? And the second is, I will show you examples of dashboards and everything else. What are what can be delivered is, if I see that it is not clash free, but let's say I have just a dozen of clashes in a huge project, what is going to be my risk contingency? And this is the key question, because today, unfortunately, with insurances and risk management, we are not optimizing the process. We are just, in a contracts, decide who will get money and who will lose money. We are not, as a whole, having more money. We just decide who will take the money, and we are not directly optimizing the process. So this is also, I wanted to say the differences between common data and common document environment. Unfortunately, today, a lot of CDs, even we talk with those big guys, although they are talking about common data environment, they're mostly talking about common document environment. And what is this? If I have a bill of quantities in a PDF, I submit to my client and he signed the document. This is one level of reliability. And the second one is if there is a full workflow, how this bill of quantity is calculated, how much data is, what formulas are used, is this automatically generated, and can I traceable, is the data traceable? So can I literally see what is connection between certain items and the model? Today, unfortunately, we are still focusing on common document environment and manage documents, and we are signing the documents. We are not signing the entire package of the information. And this is something why we still, although we have a lot of benefits with BIM, we are still managing some risks in a very traditional way. And so this is the slide, where are we today, even in the best case, even if we are using a BIM authoring tools, and even if we have a CD, common data environment. So we have a certain geometry, data, parametrics, drawings, and so on. Then we have what's called, for simplification reasons here, non-BIM systems like traditional planning, traditional estimation, could be Excel, could be Microsoft Project. We have then financial accounting systems and so on. And we are literally manually connecting the other data sources with the BIM model. And what is the, and then we don't have any additional information. So just to give you an example, we did this on a lot of projects where it's cost estimation. You have a manually done cost estimation, then a BIM model, and then someone connect foundation works with the quantities manually calculated and put this in together and said this is a BIM based. No, it's not BIM based. It's just for a presentation purposes, showing what's going on. And we even developed a very small for large contractors where they can see what they got from their ERP system and what they got from BIM. And they immediately can identify a lot of mistakes in their traditionally produced bill of quantities. The same goes with a lot of other things, because we manually connect the data. And the problem is that we don't have a single source of truth. So this is a time component here. Those bricks are different times. So what we have today is the different, let's say, planning was done, updated 3 months ago, estimation 5 months, progress last month, and so on. So this is not the concept of single source of truth. And the most of disputes, claims, and risks are coming from this. And to be honest, why when the claim is happening, what's the most money spent on figuring out what is the truth? And also there is one rule of thumb, I can say, who has the data wins. Because I was witness, and maybe you even much more, a lot of cases where someone claims something where he is going to lose and not claim someone when he obviously could win, simply because he don't know what is happening. Or an example of why the information is important, because, for example, just a bill of quantities. If I'm a contractor, everything where I will actually perform less than it's going to be, I will be silent. And everywhere where I have more work to do, I will claim. And simple, by just this simple example, it's obvious that if I don't have a data, I will not be in a good position. The idea is to have this, as much as possible, unified tools where the most of analysis are just in time coming from this enhanced, it's not necessarily just BIM, but comes from the single source of truth. And what does it mean? Whenever you update something, that it's immediately going to update all respective analysis. The key question is...
You mean, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
you mean, just to follow, you mean that all aspects are immediately together in the same model, they stay active. Let's say, because you have the different, I guess, the different time frames for
Yes.
different procurement is later than the pre-design. It's then you have the planning there. You have other aspects. You have the documents they refer to.
Mhm.
That's all staying together. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, as much as possible. Yes. So the idea is, the key question is what's happening, we know if we are talking about single source of truth or not. If you change something, let's say add sprinkler on the ground floor. The key question is, if the clash detection is going to be updated, if data check is going to be updated, if the bill of quantities is going to be updated, if the cash flow is going to be updated, if the resource management is going to be updated, even if the drawings are going to be updated. And if all this is going to be updated, we are talking about ideal single source of truth. Of course, can we always have everything? Not. But the thing is that today, this is what I want to say, that this is not too expensive. And I would like to say of course, we cannot solve everything. But if we can 80-90% of the most important things for us sorted out in this way, we are winners. And the truth today, unfortunately, is that we don't have those approaches too much. And I will just give you example what are also the other challenges and how this could be sorted out. So at the end will be some solution, which is good news. So first of all, how you evaluate the value of the data based on the workflow. So I personally always ask, what is the workflow and how this data is generated? I'm just carefully listening this, and based on that, I say, okay, risk is this. The second important thing is how, when something changes, and this is always happening on the project, how fast I can have a new information. And it's like a cost estimation. You know, my cost estimate maybe is brilliant. But when I update something, I will never have updated information. I said, okay, this is a huge risk for me. I cannot have additional works, claim management, and so on done properly. So that's, in order to have successful systems, we need to have timely information. So what is, again, rule of thumb is how fast we can produce the information. So the value of information, if I have it today, is 100. If I have it in a week, it's 30. If I have in a month, it's 10. If I have in 2 months, it's 0. And that's, sometimes it's even negative, because if I in 2 months realize that what I did wrong, I could even be disappointed because I now why I received that information late. So what should be done, and I will explain at the end, what we can put in the contract. Luckily, a lot of these things could be put in the contract, in the scope of works in the contracts. And I have to say there are a lot of very positive examples if it's done like this. So just now, what is also very important, in order to have timely information, it's to have as much as possible machine readable requirements and as much as possible automated workflows. So without them, it's not going to, simply it's not going to work. So I can give you an example, excellent. Sorry, I now don't know the project in Norway where we are also involved, where they literally, that's a large infrastructure project, every Monday morning at 7 a.m., they update 1,000 IFC files in 11 projects without even opening software, and produce a clash project, clash report, data check report, dashboard, and bill of quantities. And this is, for me, end of the game. If we can have those processes, then we could focus as engineers on intelligent things. And what is an opportunity also, that what is happening now, that some of the clients, designers who adopt some of the principles I'm mentioning now, got the significant advantage to the clients because they trust them much more, because they simply have a much better control. So just now to give you what we have to do in order to have this. Okay, these are something. These are the ways how we can, what is the automate? This is an example how construction schedule can be evaluated automatically and so on. But what I wanted, no, skip this. So these are the ideas to have a certain dashboards produced timely for the client. So just to give you an idea, what can be done? First of all, can we share all the single source of truth data at the same time to everyone? It's not going to work because the performances of those dashboards or analytics, it's going to be impossible. The performances are not going to be there. The second question is, do I really need to look at everything at the same time? No. So that's why, based from the entire single source of truth, the idea is to automatically create the subsets of the data I would like to deliver. So, for example, if I have a huge building, maybe I can say just a sub parking area, let's say, substructure area for a clash detection purposes. So first of all, I define the zones. One example we have now in Slovenia, let's say 40, 50 kilometers tunnels. We don't want to analyze all of them at the same time. We don't want even to load all IFC files at the same time. So this is something a lot of times misconception. So we just load one tunnel and analyze it. So we first define what are the spatial subsets. The second is the property subsets. The example is that today we originally load entire IFC files, and with this we analyze hundreds of properties, and we maybe for a certain analysis just need 10 of them. We can define which properties we would like to analyze. The third is systems. Maybe we would like to analyze just structural works, why we should load all utilities and analyze them. And the last but not least is the data domains. So clashes, or I will show you now what are all data domains possible available. And just to give you, so these are all data domains. Geometry, materials, element zone, facility maintenance, carbon footprint, schedule, documents, cost items, you can name it. These are everything which is existing. And here are the dashboards, and I would like just to give you a glimpse of how these dashboards are produced. And I will show you in live maybe one or two how it can work. So in this case, for example, we are doing a property data check. We would like to see if certain properties are as mandatory, are really in the project. We can just define the subset of the models we would like to analyze, maybe not necessarily entire project. Then we could automatically run this data check and see with green, red, yellow, I don't know, purple color, what data is missing. So the idea is that you can have that dashboard immediately, let's say in the morning, 7 a.m., and you know what's happening. The system automatically defines which buildings and which systems you would like to check. And if the idea is that in the future is not going to be that mandatory is to sign the document, but to sign or to approve the dashboard. So if that's gives you much more possibility to control. On the other side, give you also a requirement to analyze certain things in a much more, slightly more professional manner. This is the same goes with area analysis. So we have a building floors, different types of the project, various color coding schemas, and we can immediately see what are the areas and analysis of the last version of the project. The third one, quantity takeoff. These are utilities. I can have a various color schemas, slabs, work sets, and I will show you in a live just in a couple of minutes. So you can play around with this dashboard, but you know that this is produced today. This is produced for, and it has to be approved. This is the latest version of detailed design phase. And this is the subset of the data you have to approve. What is, and of course, this is a clash detection. So I don't need to have, as a user, a clash detection tool. I need to see a dashboard. If I'm the supervisor, if I'm the client, I just need to have a dashboard. We are talking about not the tools who produce the data, but who presents what can be done. So again, this can be done automatically, again, we are winners. And I have to say, a lot of tools are having these automation modules today. which allows you to do all these things automatically. The next thing is the estimation. I will show you maybe in live just to see what is the difference between traditional cost estimate and this cost estimate, where you can easily identify what can be done. This is a progress monitoring. Again, this is an example where you can see visually what's done each month, and you can isolate each month, see all the bill of quantities visually which was done that month. So if you have a proper workflow, and if you have this dashboard generated just in time, you will trust this data much, much more than if it's just manually in Excel submitted document. So the idea is that this is what is now possible and what is done, that this is how the approvals are done. And then you can combine this according to any criteria. The systems, you can do it per subcontractor, you can do it per any other way, and immediately see a different dashboards automatically generated. And this is, for example, now what is even more difficult, earned value analysis, where you as the client make the profits, where you're losing money, what is expected cash flow until the end of the project, and so on. And this is, for example, monthly payment certificate for a certain project. So, and this is, let's say, a dashboard for planned versus actual. So the idea is that you can combine all this and approve them instead of just manually approving the documents. And these are resources. So just to explain, and this is maybe just to wrap up this, and maybe I will show you just a couple of this examples. So the key is who creates the data, how the data is generated, can this be done in a real time or almost real time or not, and based on that, what is expected that we will have lower risks, lower premiums in the future, because we will trust the data much more. And of course, there is a workflow and everything. So these are all the benefits of effective process, lower risk, lower insurance, and so on. So how this can be adopted, what is done already on a lot of projects with the proper scope of work, with the proper deliverable formats, and literally the clients are usually on the safe side if everything is done in that manner. So just maybe before we go to I will just show you just to see example of certain items. So if I just identify this each week, in this case, I did just clicking on one element here, I will see everything which is done that particular period, week, day, month, and so on. So I can visually see everything which is done. I can visually see what is the total amount of money. I can see how it reflects the contract. And then if I want to see just what masonry and partition guy did, I just can click here and see that his amount of money for that certain period. So if I have this, I can have immediate feedback and trust this data much more and lower the risk. The same goes with, let's say, this is a project sample from Germany. If I want to see how it is going to, I can see per German standards, in this case, category, I can see color schema, and I can isolate any type of the elements I have in the project. Let's say choose Fenster, for example, and the system will show me what is the cost of all elements here. So I can visually see them, see if I forgot something or not. So the idea is that with all this, I can trust the data much more, and I am, as the stakeholder, ready to pay the premium because the data is organized in a proper manner. So just to give you the same goes for data checks, the same goes for property checks, even there are the ways. Now I will show you if connection internet is good. I can see even a very, very smooth. Now I see on internet is not, but here and live maybe it's a very smooth simulation, so I can see how the project is going to be built. So the concept, this is a clash detection. Let's say I can see all the clashes in the project, so per zone, per building level. So the idea is that if you can produce just in time those types of dashboards and analysis, you can trust the data much more, and the value of information is higher. The concept of traditional install, the vision is instead of delivering a single paper document PDF, to deliver a subset of information, so certain zones, certain data, certain dashboard, and to that information has to be approved. The value for all stakeholders is much, much better. So this is the relationship between single source of truth concept, risk management, and contract management. So do you have any questions?
Comments?
Yeah, I have it's Julian from France. It's a very good product. We do the same thing, in fact. Did you use Forge?
No, this is BEXEL, but BEXEL, in this case, viewer, CD manager. So it's similar. Maybe we have some benefits for the others, but more or less it's a BEXEL viewer.
Okay, because you have to convert. In fact, you convert EFC files into database, JSON or no?
Not just that. This is one part, but as you know now, a lot of data is missing in IFC. So you need to combine various data sources. So it could come from ERP system or any other system. So it's not necessarily, unfortunately, IFC is not sufficient. Because, for example,
if you want to query an IFC for spaces or properties, you need to convert it into a database like SQL file, SQL or JSON, so on. You create your own converter?
Yes, of course. We have our own, but similar like Autodesk have or Bentley, yes, of course.
Okay, and after you connect it to Power BI, for example.
Yes, what I wanted to say that key is that you have a data, key is where the data is, and of course in this example, Power BI was used because when you create this dashboard, Power BI automatically creates a very efficient all-up cube with just particular subset of information. So performances are great, and you can use this in this case on our CD, where you have a lot of projects, models, and so on. But the idea is that even if you use a Microsoft, in this case, let's say SharePoint, you can even define the workflow. So who is approving each of these dashboards? And in this case, if Microsoft Power BI is used, the benefit is that a lot of additional customizations of each of these dashboards can be directly done in SharePoint. But any one way or another, the idea is that the data is fully open. Everybody could access, of course, who owns the data has the control how he will use the data and so on. What I wanted, please go ahead if you have any additional questions, but what I wanted...
I have another question. A very important point for us. It's to explain that a common data environment is not a common data environment. In fact, it's a common file environment because, as I say, if you if you download IFC files, for example, into a CDE, you can't query all data, and you need to to convert them. And it's a big deal, in fact. And in the common data environment, you just have a file and not data. Data is very different from IFC file. IFC file is database, in fact, database object. And it's very important to have all information, all data with relation between each element. And you can do what we can see in the picture, in the screen. And it's very important to do the difference between EFC file and data. It's a big deal.
Yes, that's what I use in my slide, that you define a subset of IFC files, subset of properties attached to them,
yeah,
subset of systems. So maybe you would like to just we see a structural works or MEP works or everything, and then subset of the data. So these are, everything is the common data. Unfortunately, today misconception is that you have a viewer, let's say a CD, which is just a basic viewer of the models. And then you have a literally added document management system. And it's called common data environment. Unfortunately, this is not true then. Because what I wanted to say also, one example how you can test the accuracy of the data. So if I have any of the model, let's say, and I would like to verify how the data is generated. If I click to the single element, let's say I'm going to just find any of the projects here, just to go to the cost. If I click on the single element and I see that its cost, in this case, 18,000, I know that it is bottom-up analysis and it is very accurate. If I have contrary, those walls and windows cost 5 million. The accuracy of that information is quite low. So one of the tricks or ideas is that data should come from to be attached to the element itself or to the minor group of elements. Otherwise, we are talking about top-down approach where a lot of mistakes could happen. So this is an example. So I know in Power BI, rather, you can combine any data, but the problem is how this data is generated. This is the key difference. So this is so that you can justify how the information is done. Otherwise, if you have, just go back to this slide. This is very important. So maybe you can answer to me to this question. So what is the system? You mentioned the Forge, for example. What is the system? Is this that one or that one? So where is the cost estimate created there, or opposite, it's created somewhere else and then connected simply to the BIM model for presentation purposes?
And how do you approve a dashboard? What is the workflow to?
Workflow is suggested in this case. We, for example, this is not related just to our technology. So we have, I presented a lot of things which are, so we have the system in BEXEL, which is a document management system. So you can see who published the data for which version of the project, when it was published, what are the subsets which are used, and so on. But if you want to utilize at the moment full benefits of this, the workflow will be to use a SharePoint, and then in SharePoint to define the workflows.
Okay.
We plan, let's say, by the end of this year to have everything built in also in our system. This is what, for example, Maximilian always asks. The key is also where the data is stored and who owns the data. So that's what we can discuss with Autodesk and with others as well. So the idea is that the vision is that always data must be, that there is a possibility that data can be stored on the client premises or on the client designated premises. When I say client, I mean everybody who is using. It could be a designer, could be contractor, could be the owner. Today we have the issue with some of the software vendors, which does not allow you to do that. What is very interesting with, for example, what is good about Microsoft Power BI, that Microsoft allows that everything is hosted on your premises. And you can have, just to an example, Saudi Arabia, they are extremely strict. So first question in every meeting in Saudi Arabia, can the data be stored in Saudi Arabia? And if the answer is no, then end of discussion. They don't even ask you anything else. And good is that we have it, some of our largest contractors over there. They have Microsoft Power BI and SharePoint hosted on their servers in Saudi Arabia, and they are fully under their control. So this is something why in this case we mentioned combination with Microsoft, and of course you know that Microsoft, even with Azure servers, they host the data can host the data on the other premise, on the local premises as well, allow you to do that.
I think this is a very good example of what is done in projects today, as you say.
Yes.
And I think I know the Norwegian project. I think it might be the new subway in Oslo.
Sorry,
yeah.
My guys are there. I can double check.
Okay, but I would argue it's not the software that's the problem. I think it's how we furnish good experience and good ways of working from the large project, which have the big resources, and funnel them to the smaller and medium-sized projects so they can benefit from the same development and way of thinking. It's not the software, it's people. It's people that will not adopt new ways of working, because we do have the tools. We do have the knowledge. We just have to make people understand that that's the way of doing it. And also, I didn't agree with you saying you have to sign off on the model, because who's going to do that if that's the combined model of a lot of people? But because the model is the viewing tool, and I think all the decisions and everything behind the progress, who's building on whose information, have to be somewhere else. But this is a way of confirming that thing is as you promise it is.
If I may, just to answer to all the points you mentioned now. So first of all, the thing is that to answer where this can be adopted. So if the tools are complex, but the processes are automated and simplified, everybody will use this. If contrary, there is extremely complex workflow and process. That's what you just said, but how much money I have to do all this, and if it costs cost is extremely high, nobody will use it. So what is luckily with automation and smart processes and so on, and relatively complex things, we can lower the price, and the adoption is now even much better for the smaller projects or smaller companies. The second thing is what we realized also, that with all these dashboards, which are just to tell you that I personally test this with a friend of mine who is actually a politician, who doesn't know anything, and he is a physician. He does not know anything about the cash flow. Of course, he was involved in a lot of things, so he's very smart. But if he can understand this, then I can say, okay, this is so simple. He can visually, he was, for example, I don't have maybe here, maybe it's even, no, it's not. But he was seeing that the cash flow productivity was very low in the first year. And then it was expected that the next year it has to triple the efficiency. And he said, come on, it's not realistic, you know. And then I said, that's a good point. If the top management, so I just want to say, maybe this is today a problem of the tools we have. They're primarily designed for engineers who are going to produce the information, and not tailored for the managers in those companies. And they still need to wait. So I just give you an example for clash detection, basic use case. You know, I talked with a friend of mine who is a designer and managed hundreds of projects. And he said, still, when I ask what are the clashes, what are the issues we have in design, my guys tell me I need a month They need a month to produce for me one PDF, which is, I cannot even, then it's too late. I have a feeling that those guys know everything, and I, as a manager, top manager or president of the, I cannot see this and maybe see, okay, this is good, this is bad, or can ask an additional question, because the format which was presented to me is so simplified and rudimentary. So the idea is that now top managers will have ability to ask good questions and said, okay, but why you haven't solved those clashes? Because it doesn't need to have all these tools, but those dashboards needs to have. So that's a good thing, is that now we are switching the situation from something where you cannot control the things to something where you can have much better control for the managers as well.
I'm agree with you, because in France, architects and engineers don't understand why do BIM, in fact, because you spend a lot of time, a lot of money. It doesn't make sense. With dashboard like this, you create a lot of use case, and you know why create BIM model. In fact, is a database. If you just create a database and don't use data, there is no sense. With this kind of tools, you are able to use data to create a lot of use case. And in France, if you show this kind of dashboard or interaction with data, architects, engineers, contractors say, I will do BIM because I spend a lot of time, but I know why. Because it makes sense. I can show my cost scheduling and so on. And it's the end of the BIM for me. It's if you just create BIM model, it is no sense. You must use data, and it's a good way for me.
I think if I can have a reaction too, it's really nice what you can do with it. I always try to go back to the basis of what we do, mostly in technical engineering and so on. And I think working in a very large project myself at the moment also, where we also have these dashboards, and I think this is more sophisticated than the one that we are using, but you always see a problem there, because it's, first of all, it's based on the input and the quality of the input. And of course, with geometrical data, it's not subjective. It's really what is there, and you can do something with it. But the main problem, most of the time, is the quality of your model. What I mean with that is that I wanted to say the same to answer the same question, but so what we face is that, for example, that people are then discussing, for example, on the clash freeness of models interacting. But for example, they forget that a certain calculation of a certain design is not yet finalized and not yet done and not yet approved or controlled and so on, and that is totally missing them. And sometimes if people want, because actually as a management, and these tools are important, specifically if you have larger projects, then these tools are important to have an idea from management point of view. Okay, what's moving? What is not moving? And what we see sometimes happen now is that that from the engineers themselves, except that they said it looks all good on paper, but in reality, it's a huge crap, because they did not properly went to this phase where you are checking, where this is checking, and they just slided this under the carpet. And then 2 months after that, so you're following your process, because I fully agree with you. It's a process that you follow up, and that's very good. We do have formal approvals still. The client requested, so we have the detailed design. After detailed design, there will be a formal approval. And the way going there, you will need this to not continuously have to do that. But maybe I'm missing something, Veljko, but please correct me. Yeah, but I see sometimes that because you have different people, different softwares also used, that this information is very hard to bring together, all accurate at the same time. What I mean with that is that I'll leave you the word to you, Ingrid. But you see this information that is not always so accurate in the dashboards because of people trying to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, this is why it is according to the workflow.
So how do you bring it together? That's basically my question. If you say I have data management.
First of all, I used to say I saw now maybe more than 1,000 different BIM models, and only once in the Bay Area, one friend of mine, I'm not going to name, he mentioned we did the hospital with full LOD 400. And I said it would be my greatest pleasure to go and see that hospital. And then he said me, okay, do you know what marketing is? The same is with the clash-free model. The same is with 100% coming from cost. The same is even on this. This is a project from this is actually for Technical University in Munich, the sample project we did with Siemens. So of course, there is more than 10% of the cost and task are not modeled at all. But what I used to say, so it's never going to be 100%. But it's what is important that you always know what is coming from BIM, what is done and what's not. And then I used to say what is always missing in any analysis is this small text before or after it, what this analysis contains. You also rightly said for which phase this is, when this is produced, and so on. So that's why this is just-in-time dashboard is important. So you said, okay, this is cost me this small building 7 million, that building, I don't know, that railway cost me the tunnel 200 million. I know this is produced for all the elements in the model, but let's say sprinkler is not model. All other costs like equipment, side equipment, or trailers are not included. So I see 200 million, but this is not included. So I know what's there, what's not. With the data checks and clash checks, we can do much more, but still I need to have here, this is a clash detection, but sprinkler is not yet here.
If I quickly may on that, for example, that's a very good point that you make there, but just to emphasize what I actually want to say, because it's complex. When you talk about cost, for example, you have your cost data in there, it's linked to your objects. And for example, I had a pre-design, for example, where I had 500 cubic meters of reinforced concrete, for example. We changed, the model is changing because it's all a process. There is a cost related to that 500 cubic meter of concrete. Then it becomes 200 cubic meter of concrete. Just an example. The price needs to change too, but the persons who need to change it is not yet actively in there because there's a phasing. That's what I mean.
That's not a single source. But it's not a single source of truth. Please.
Because this one has no value at all. If you don't have, you should have a lean production and design. A virtual design construction should be implemented, and also all the objects should have a parameter. LOD or MMI, model maturity index, which says I am a wall and I'm trustable because this is my final design, it's locked. Or this is, I'm a wall, I'm here, but it's...
You need to be beyond the basic engineering, that's what you're saying.
No, it's because we have several systems, but the latest one which is catching on is the MMI, model maturity index, which says at level 100, this is a pre-design, very pre. 250, it's early lock design. 350, finished. 600 built or something. I don't remember. But it's very fixed scale. So every object, then you would in your Power BI see how far this model is, how mature it is. This area is finished, it's built. This one, we're not there yet. So you can see by coloring how mature the model is. And that's the piece you're missing, because then the calculation that they have swept under the carpet, and they would be arrested for it, because
then of course, but as I understood, but maybe I misunderstood, made the wrong interpretation, but I understood that this was also a tool not only for the design phase where you still, but also for the execution. But then if something like a change happens in the execution, then you are faced with a certain sequence of people involved. You first have an engineer and that thinks about the technical solution, but most of the time, the way I see it, but I'm not saying that this is the perfect world, but I'm saying it's happening like that. You have like we call a trade-off matrix that you make with several opinions. Then somebody starts moving in a certain direction during execution phase because all the rest is moving. And then the procurement is coming later on. That again gives a feedback. It's a whole process that sometimes takes months.
Allow me, Ingrid, just to say, this is about what I mentioned about the process and how fast the information could be generated. So, and if it's done properly well, then almost automatically information can be done. So, for example, just to show you now, this is a clash detection. I can see all the clashes in the project, clash-free modes, whatever I want to see, I don't know. And if I go here, I see all the clashes. And can we all agree today that we can do that more or less just in time? When we update IFC files, we just load the clash matrix. And you can use any software, Navisworks, Libri, BEXEL, any other software can do that just in time. So you will not say, but I need a month, my code is not updating the clash dashboard. No, he did that automatically. What we are having, let's say, but this is about why the process is important. So if we can go here, updated model, and if I go, let's say, create a new cost estimate, automatic. If the process can be that based on the formulas and everything I have in a system, I can automatically calculate the new sprinkler or updated walls and have dashboard automatic. You will not ask, but what if my colleague need 1 month to do that? Because, so just, that's what you should do. If you say auto assign to new cost version, let's say, I will just show you here what is behind this. The workflows which allows you to do this automatically. So if the data check has to be done manually, if cost estimate has to be done manually, if progress has to be done manually, you cannot have a single source of truth. And because you will manually do this, in this case, I now created, just to go here, just to show that this is a new version of cost estimate.
But when you say you cannot do manually, you mean it cannot be done in a separate system and in a separate flow. It needs to be in that flow and it needs to be in that system, linked to the system.
It should be what I say.
Or do you mean that?
You see here, this slide. Yeah. This is maybe it's you here.
Yeah.
So this is a BIM-based cost estimate. So it means that the BIM is the basis. In Germany, for example, that's a standard for 50 years. They have an extremely detailed way how the cost estimate is done. And it's always up to the single element. Always.
Yes.
In some other countries, it's always top down. So and why this is important? Because the two things are extremely related, the risk and traceability.
Yeah.
So if I can trace how the data is generated, and if it's in relatively automatic way done, then I first of all have just-in-time information and reduce the risk. So that's why usually whenever someone shows you bill of quantities, that's my suggestion. Your first question can be, and not to jump in, say 1,000 cubic meter is good or bad. Just explain to me how you created that document. And the second question is, or even you can, based on what he said, realize, okay, he said, I manually do this. You say, come on, but this is now preliminary design for a tunnel. So when detailed design come, I will again need 3 months to do that. So it's not a good process. So this is how, just now to go back to that, you will never have everything from the BIM or from the GIS or from laser scanning. You need to know what you will have, but still, if you can have 90%, what I used to say, let's say risk tolerance is 10% are the mistakes, or 5% are the mistakes in the quantities, manually done. If in BIM, it's 0.5, because what can happen? I simply forgot to model certain wall. I simply forgot to model properly.
Or double.
Or double, but double can be prevented. Yeah. We in our system or in Navisworks, we have a system which, duplicated elements. So this is not, but even 0.5 is less. So if I have a 10% of the cost manually done, my risk will be 10 times less than if I did 100% manual.
No, you're right about quantities. There isn't, in general, not too much discussion. It's most about unit rates, but that's a different thing.
But this is, you can add the margins automatically or everything else. But just to give you example, what is, I don't have now here the dashboard example, but you see two costs. Coming from the ERP system and coming from the BIM model. You cannot imagine how different they are. And then you ask someone, what are you managing? You have invoice, which is, you have in your invoice items which does not exist in the project. And nobody noticed this because it's like a without spell check and with spell check. Even if you are best writer, you will make a lot of mistakes. And this is about the process. If you have now this lot of this advisor, even artificial, if I'm not English native speaker, they will even tell me, oh, it's not too confident, or you should use that phrase. It now helps me a lot. And so the quality with this and without this simply is not the same. And the same goes with risks.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we can.
What is the price for Julian? The price per month for a middle project, $10 million, or just to have an idea?
Oh, BEXEL is not. You can have an unlimited project, so you just go on our website. You can see the prices. So I honestly don't believe. But this is my personal. Why you should pay per value of the project? It's like I'm driving a car and purchasing a new Mercedes, and you ask me how far I'm going to drive. So it's for me, you know. If I'm going to use something more from you, then I understand this. So no, our prices, you can use this on an unlimited number of projects.
That means you don't provide the storage.
No, we provide storage.
Okay, I think that's the difference.
The storage is not very expensive, just to tell you this. So everybody who is saying that because of the storage, you need to pay more, again, not true. Simply the cost of the project and the storage of the data, again, not related at all. So simply what I honestly believe, you should pay for the tools and which is fair, not for the value of the project. So more or less, it's not so expensive, and you can use it on an unlimited number of projects.
And it's a special price for FCA members.
No. This is, I don't want to go into this. But this is, I want to go back to another, how to implement this.
It's a sales meeting.
No. This was not the goal. I want to go here just to say how to implement this, because this is important. So if you have extremely well defined scope of work, if you invest slightly more time in this, but not mentioning any software, just this is not about the tools, please. You can be on the safe side. Just an example recent, we are working on a headquarters for police and Ministry of Police in our country. If you talk with that's a national company who managed that project. If you ask the CEO of that company, he said that he's completely relaxed now and on the safe side because everything was defined. And he can talk with contractor, with designer, with project manager.
An end user or contractor?
Yeah. He's end user.
End user.
He has this. He's now saying, I have everything.
Yeah.
And there is no way, because if it's not clearly defined, if you mention just 5D BIMs, it's literally, like you said, nothing.
But you need to agree, because that's most of the time what we face is that it's difficult to bring your clients to this, what you call advanced contract management, because they are more in a classical attitude.
They're very happy when they see a Power BI presentation.
Yeah.
No, just
but the problem with it is liability, because, for example, we are in engineering and we are actually part of that process. And specifically, if you're very large projects, we are there for years sometimes. Yeah. And you cannot, after 2 years of work, go back to step one, and that the client says, okay, I changed, I'm not happy with the result, go ahead, and it's for free. I'm not going to pay you because you had to do it right from the first time. And then it becomes very important, what you said, to have this approvals on the continuation of the process. And that I like very much in this approach, although you need a client that is willing to participate on something like that. If your client says, well, okay, do whatever you want, but still, after 2 years, I'm then going to decide if I agree with you or not.
No, but this is not even according to FIDIC law.
Yeah, but FIDIC doesn't exist sometimes in some countries. But that is, of course, a very important thing.
That's good point. If I may just say that the thing is that with all these approvals and what you, Ingrid, said, that the clients sometimes have engineers. They don't want to produce the data. They don't want to go deep how the structural design works, but they like to see something which is adjusted to their needs. And this is some sort of interactive dashboards.
Yeah.
And because then they have something for them. Because otherwise they have a feeling, even in manager in design company, have much more with this than with these concepts than without, because we as humans want to have a feeling that can be, and if we just see end result and we cannot verify, we cannot comment, we just see a lot of numbers, but we cannot play around with them. Simply we do not trust that data too much, and then we are just, of course, use indemnity insurance and all other stuff. But this is something which might change. I can maybe parallel use that in the other industries. Whenever it was switched also to the top management, then it was possible for them to see something useful. They started to be more interested in this. I just use a parallel with SAP, for example. Before that, when they had just accounting system and something which is with lot of numbers, but every accountants have used this, top manager said, okay, what guys you are doing? But now when the top management can see all this interactive, interesting dashboards, they say, oh, there is something for me now as well. And now I will push for this.